Paper Inspirations from Australia showed some fabric tags on her YouTube channel. I'll put a link below. And I was so inspired by it. And I have lots of fabric scraps. I love fabric. So I thought I'll give it a try. First up, you need some fabric scraps. So these are all offcuts. I've washed and ironed them. Really scraps. The darkest I've done a tag in is this blue. So the stamping shows up, but not as clearly. But with embellishment, it doesn't matter if it's dark. You could just leave the stamping altogether. I've stamped on textured. The textured stamping came out fine. This is like a velvet. I haven't tried that. And then like Hessian. Anything really that you can think of. The neutrals do work better. Even the darker neutrals show up quite nicely. I made holes in all of the fabric pieces using the Japanese screw punch, and I put eyelets in all of them purely because it gives a nice finish and to stop any of the embellishments and any of the fabric and the eyelets and things pulling back through. And then fasteners to actually attach them to your journal. So those are garment tags. These are those little ball chains that you just hook in, and I also used a bulb pin. On one of the tags, I also just used a split pin, so you could actually put that flat on the page. And then this is an example of using the bulb pin as a fastener. It's a much smaller tag, and then this one is on a much larger tag. Just to give you an idea on size, this one's about 5 by 7 centimeters. The skinny one is 4 by 15. This one's 5 by 10, 10 and a half. So really any size. These can be gift tags too. They don't need to just go into journals. They add a nice bit of texture. This fabric you happen to be treated, so you can write on the back, but also just sticking a sticker on the back gives you a nice writing space. For the actual stamping, I use StazOn, and the stamps are quite simple and basic, so not too much detail, and then the text stamps also work well. So basically what you want is if the stamp doesn't stamp very nicely or not perfectly because it's an uneven surface, the fabric, that you're not too concerned about that. For embellishments, laces work really well to finish off the edge and to add a bit of the vintage detail. Some little die cut tags on tags to add something like that. The words, mini words work well. Beads, pearls, charms. And then I like adding, these are the bigger paper clips, but you can also use some of the small ones. A little thing on the side, just an extra embellishment like this one. So that just slips into that pocket, and then you can add a little bit of paper, whatever. And then a dangle and a piece of interesting string. On the tags, I like having the frayed edges. So when you have your piece of scrap material, just take the line of the threads into consideration when you cut and plan what you're going to do. I've been told that my green board's very ugly, so let's work like this. I've cut the self edge off and just the little jagged edge, and what I'm doing is I'm folding it and folding it again just to see what sort of tag I could get out of this. So 4 tags of 6 by 10, that would work. So I'm just going to cut it on that. I'm not even too concerned about cutting straight because you feather the edges. There you go, that's 4 pieces of the same size. The start to make the tag is check what's your front and what's your back. So this one appears to be the back. And fold a little gusset. And that's where your eyelet will go through. The gusset is about, in this case, about 2 centimeters. Anything less and you're going to struggle with the eyelet. but have a look at your size of your eyelet to determine your gusset. If you are planning on fraying your edges, fray them before you fold over the gusset, because once that bend is there, you can still fray it, but it gets a bit more tricky. I eyeball the gusset and I eyeball the actual hole, and then you just give it a wiggle. And then these Japanese eye screw punches are quite good. But I mean, you could also just mark it and give it a cut, because whatever cut you give there will be hidden by the eyelet, so if it's not too neat you won't see it. Something to take into consideration before you put your eyelet in is you can add decoration secured by the eyelet at this stage already. So you could, for example, put the little tag that the tag is in eyeletted on. So let me see if I've got an example here. So this one, the lace is eyeletted on. This one I did a little iridescent butterfly wing, which is caught in the eyelet. So that's the result. Just position it, because obviously once it's eyeletted on, it's stuck in that angle. And then it's quite neat at the back. Same with this. The laces are very easy to eyelet on, because you just there's an existing hole, right? So you just position it like that. These are meant to be a little bit shabby, so at this point you can do your stamping. I like that the stamps fill almost the whole tag, but you could obviously just do it on the side. This one I had flipped the tag over and rubbed the back over the stamp. So you can see this is textured, so it gave a much darker image. And this one I just stamped. So it's a little bit faded, but again, in the whole junk journal-y, shabby chic type feeling. And then come the embellishments. So I've slid a little paper clip into the gusset, added a little tag, and do tiny little beads. I didn't stick them on, but they're not going anywhere. And then just little tiny word. And then you can choose your fastening. So for this, perhaps a ball pin will be sufficient. And I mean, you can embellish the ball pin, and I like adding a bit of detail on the paper clips, so little decorative thing, or eyelet trim or something like that, just to add a bit of softness. And with the paper clip, just hook it on or tie it on. So this is an example where there's just a little bit of embroidery thread tied on to add some color. You can also choose to disguise the gusset with some lace if you don't add the lace there, for example. This one again gets a little word, a ball pin with some beads and a eyelet fringe and just a garment tag. And that's another one. These are not meant to take long. You can distress the edges of your tags and things like that, but they just meant to add a little bit of 3D definition to your pages. These dark green velvets, I've never done such dark ones. I also want to show you how you can deal with when you do the flap and the back is actually not in the matching color or even in a nice pattern. Some of these synthetics don't have nice backing, so we can deal with that. This is an example of where the backing was treated, so when you fold it over there was quite a big contrast, so I just stamped it with text. Just something to keep in mind with the heavier fabrics and the non-naturals, they don't fray as well as the natural fabrics, so you need to make your cut straight. These aren't straight, so let me just tidy them up. So that's the first way, it just softens it a bit. With the thicker fabrics, this doesn't lie as flat, so you can finish with paper clips and things, or you can just do 2 little glue dots, hot glue gun, and just keep them flat. The second option is to just fold it over and then glue a piece of trim or something, or lace onto that. It then covers a little seam, and then you eyelet right through that again. So that's a little bit of iridescent vintage trim, or like, whoops, a lace or something. Really, you can go as elaborate here as you want to. And then on this one, I just put a piece of old dictionary paper over the whole thing, and then you can eyelet through there. So that little irregular edge, if you trim that off, again, it's a different type of embellishment. So that's covered, and it works well. This one is just hot glue gun, works fine, and that one stamped. So that's how you deal with an unsightly fold edge. This is a page out of Desiree Goeders van my Hart's beautiful journal that she swapped with me. Any case, to use it would be something like this. So that's got a little tag and some beads, big paper clip, and then just clip it onto the next page. And then I've used the little fastener to physically fasten it to a little cigarette card. So there's some cohesion, and like on a blank page, that it adds, it's tactile. It adds some weight and it adds some detail. And if you really wanted to, you could write at the back of it. And then one last thing, if you don't want to stamp, this is like a lining that I've just distress sprayed, so it gave a sort of ombre effect. So that would also make a good tag. You can stamp over that. So there you go. Play with your fabric scraps, play with your bits and pieces. It's really very, very simple to do this. And if you didn't want to eyelet all of them, just stick that down and embellish that, and then just tuck the whole thing in with a paper clip. There you go. Use your fabric bits and then just add as much or as little embellishments on them as you want. And then also it's quite easy. This is an end piece from a piece of scrapbook paper to use all of that. Have fun. Thank you for watching. And if you haven't yet, please subscribe. Thank you very much.